to Tuesday's top tip. And today's top tip, I'm going to talk about frameworks to create freedom and how to build systems that run your business, not ruin your life. I'm glad you're here with me today, and I hope to provide some extreme value for you. So last week, we talked a lot about one conversation and how that can build and double your business. And so this week, I want to take it a level up because what happens if you use the gain method that I talked about last week? What you'll probably find happen if you are truly using that gain method that we talked about and how you can change the conversation with your leads and convert them is, well, you get more conversions. And if you get more conversions, then that also means you are busier, right? And so I want to talk about that today because that is another problem that you may find. Okay. Once you start converting it, we hear people all say at times, I want leads, I want leads. I need more clients, I need more clients, I need more money, I need more money. But you might find that having those things that you think you need and not solving the situation with frameworks and systems, you may find yourself much, much more busier and not really have a life. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Thank you again for being here, and I hope to pour in a lot of value. So stay with me. I'm going to talk about three core segments today, and we're going to run about 15 minutes per segment. So I will shorten up these as clips so that you can see the different segments in smaller chunk sizes. But stick with me. And if you did not see the live from last week, this kind of builds off of that. I did talk about the GAIN method, which is GAIN. It's a framework on how you can convert your leads into clients. And I'm going to expand on that today so that when you become busier from converting more of your leads into clients, you'll be able to handle that workload. Okay. All right. So, most people think that you need to work harder, you need to hire more people, you need more time, or maybe you're going to get caught up on the weekend as you start to get really, really busy. And the fact is that you don't actually need more hours. You probably need better frameworks, better systems put in place in your business. And again, that's what we're going to talk about today because frameworks actually create freedom for you. Systems will create freedom and they replace that chaos into clarity within your business. Every major business has systems in place. Think about it. If you go work for a corporation and you take a day off, don't you think they have a system in place that everything's not going to fall apart because you took a couple of days off or you were sick? So if they have it, why don't you have it as a small business owner? So I hope this will help you. But segment one is going to be we're going to talk about the freedom fallacy. So this is why most business owners are trapped by their success. Okay. And then we have number two, we're going to talk about, these are my core segments. Number two is the framework fix, how to design repeatable systems that work even when you don't. So if you're sick or you take a vacation. And number three is going to be the system shift, how to automate, delegate, and optimize so you can lead like a true CEO. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But segment one, we'll begin here, is the freedom fallacy. Why hard work is not the answer that we all think of. I remember my entire life, I thought if I just work harder, I'll make more money. If I just work harder, if I just work harder. And then I found myself working so hard that I actually sacrificed my family. I didn't spend time with my kids. I didn't spend time with my husband. I literally just worked and worked and worked. And though the money came in, the sacrifice was too big. Okay. And that's what I hope you avoid. I always like to say that a lot of us entrepreneurs, we come into being an entrepreneur because we think freedom. And this is that freedom fallacy. We think freedom from being an entrepreneur, but we actually replace our 9 to 5 for a 5 to 9. That's what we do as entrepreneurs. So I want to reshape that and give you have you think a little bit differently of how you're structuring your business. And if you're already having a successful business, stepping back and starting to implement some of these slowly, but implement them because systems will help you make more money, alleviate a lot of the stress that you have, and even make your business stickier. Okay. So we'll talk a lot about that. So my core message for this part of the freedom fallacy is freedom isn't doing less. It's actually designing things better. Okay, so it's not necessarily that you're doing less. So you're not doing less for your clients. You're not having less value for your clients. You're just designing it better. I like to use the example of level up score. So a lot of people are like, oh, if you automate everything, you lose the value that you're giving to your clients. Using level up score has significantly increased the value that I provide to my clients, but it also significantly decreased the time that I need to spend with the clients, right? Or spend doing the work with the clients. So again, I'll say that again, freedom isn't doing less. I actually do more, but I have better systems that I've designed, better automations that I've designed. So even though I'm providing more value, doing more for the client, I actually have more freedom. So hopefully that sticks with you and kind of brainstorm around that. So my talking breakdown today, I'm going to talk about 4 different things here. Number 1, the hard work trap. Number 2, the growth paradox. Number 3, 3 signs you're trapped in the freedom fallacy. Okay. And number 4, the mindset shift. Okay. So we're going to go back up to number 1, the hard work trap. Most entrepreneurs think, me included, that if you push a little harder, that you'll get ahead. But you're not building freedom. This isn't building freedom. You're actually building a bigger cage for yourself. Again, I'll use that same example. You traded your 9 to 5 for a 5 to 9. You create a bigger cage for you to sit in. You have a job. You don't have a business. Okay. When you think that you need to work harder and push a little harder and push a little harder. I know I've been there, done it. So many years I did it. So many years. I didn't understand the concept. I think I heard all my life, work hard, work hard. Work hard, then play. Work hard, then play. I never got the play part because I had to work so hard. Does that make sense? I think a lot of you probably feel that same thing. If your business falls apart when you are not doing the business, when you take a day off, then you don't actually own a business, you own a job. Okay. People ask me all the time, okay, how do you sell a business? You've done that. You've scaled a business and sold a business. How did you do that? Well, because I sold a business. I sold an asset, not a job. So again, everyone is going to have an exit strategy at one point in time in your life, whether that's just you close down your business, you sell your business, you give it to someone else to take on. So make sure you have things in place today for that future event. Make sure you have things in place today so you can go take a vacation for 30 days, right? Wouldn't that be great? I have a friend of mine, she took a vacation for 1 year from her business. And then she was talking to me on the phone and she's like, you know what? I think I want to go back to work. Think about that. She took off 1 year off of her business and one day said, you know what? I think I want to go back. And it wasn't she was going back because the business was falling apart. No, actually was doing better than when she left. But she was ready. She wanted to go back in, jump back into it, right? How great of a feeling if you had the opportunity to do that as well. So that's the hard work trap. Don't believe that by you working harder yourself, that you're going to somehow be better. You're going to be more successful. You're going to make more money. You might. I did. I made more money, but I traded time for money. And I traded, in essence, happiness for money. So had all the money and I couldn't spend it on anything that I like to do. Do you guys hear me? Do you feel me? Right? So think about that. Number 2 is the growth paradox. Every new client adds complexity to your business. Again, growth paradox. Every new client adds complexity to your business. Think about that for a second. So we keep saying we want more clients, but every new client adds complexity, not just money. Okay. So if your systems don't grow with you, you're going to scale with chaos. You're going to scale where you don't have time to do anything. You're going to scale and you're going to be just, again, working harder, right? You're going to have more stress, right? So consider that. I've actually seen this on multiple occasions where a credit repair organization, a coach, a financial advisor, even a gym, they would scale from 50 clients to all of a sudden 150 clients, right? And they actually had less profit. So they made more money at 50 clients than they did at 150 clients because they didn't have structure in their business. So because they didn't have structure, they had to then go hire some outsourcing to do this and do this and do this. And it was a higher cost. And the end result is they were working harder, spending a lot more time in their business, working in their business and not actually making more money. And that is not where we want to go with our business. So those are the growth paradox. Number three signs you're trapped in the freedom fallacy. Number one, you're still doing everything yourself because you say something like, well, no one can do it as good as me. That's okay. If someone can do it 80% as good as you, take them on. Okay. So, or you don't have clear processes. You're relying on your memory to do your job. And I know a lot of people do this, right? They rely on their memory. Okay, when a client comes in, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. Instead of actually having a system together, they're relying on memory. They don't have a CRM system to remind them of what needs to happen. They're just relying on memory. I did this for years. I started 23 years ago when I had manila folders on my desk and had those little folder rings. Some of you might have those on your desk. I don't know if that's a thing anymore. Anyway, I would have the clients in there and I would rotate them out of there every 30 days. So you would come in and then the next 30-day rotation. So I had all these piles on my desk and I had an employee who would file them back in alphabetical order. And that's kind of our system because we didn't have a CRM system at that time. That was something that wasn't available, right? And so I had to oftentimes rely on memory. And then I created systems which had a little piece of paper inside the manila folder that said, here are the things I need to do. And I would check them off, right? Wasn't perfect by any means, but I started to adapt and create systems because I was forgetting things because of I was relying on memory of what I was supposed to do. So really, really important if you want to alleviate this idea of, I'm going to have more clients and I'm going to rely on my memory and everything's going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. So making sure that you have clear processes is important. The third sign, you feel guilty stepping away from business. You can't do it like I just told you, my friend who stepped away for a year. You couldn't do that because you would know that it would fall apart, right? Or 30 days or even one day. I know I've been in the situation where I was like, oh my goodness, if I get sick even one day, I can't even imagine what's going to happen, right? And so those are some traps that you may find yourself in. You're trapped in that freedom fallacy. Okay. Number four, the mindset shift. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. Let me say that again. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. Okay, you need systems in place. Systems will help you, when you have systems in place, it'll help you remove decision making. And I like Tony Robbins says it really well. He says that if you make a firm commitment about something, it is so much easier to accomplish that thing because there's no decisions that you have to make. Okay. So for instance, if I make a firm decision that I'm going to do the millionaire's morning routine that I have, so I have 6 steps in that routine. If I make a firm commitment that I'm going to follow those 6 steps, then there's no decision making that I need to make. I'm going to do step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, 4, 5, 6. And if something comes in to disrupt my routine, the answer is always no, right? If it's the alarm clock is going off at 3:30 in the morning, if my routine is a commitment that I'm making, a firm commitment, and I know that 3:30 means I have to get up at 3:30 so I can complete the 6 steps in the time that I want to complete them, right? Then I know that I don't have to make a decision about whether or not I'm going to wake up at 3:30 in the morning or 5:30 or 6:30 or whatever time you wake up. I don't have to make a decision on that. I just know that that's what I have to do. And it really, really helps when you take that decision, remove the decisions out of the process. When you remove decisions, you actually create more peace for yourself and you get more done. Okay. So systems will help you build that. So this is that mind shift, set shift that I want to see you thinking about is like, hey, in everything that I do, if I can create a system or a framework for that, I alleviate the decision-making process because this is just how we do it, right? Like the GAIN method. When I get a new lead come in, we go through the GAIN method. Goal, awareness, insight, next step. Everybody knows that. My whole organization knows we do the GAIN method. So we don't have to rely on memory. We have a framework. We've named it. It's easy to repeat. It's easy. It's marketable. It helps us stay on track with everything. It's a system. So we don't have to make decisions about what's going to happen when this lead comes in. How are we going to handle this lead, right? We have a system. So feel free to take the GAIN framework that I taught last week and apply that into your business. I think you're going to find it is what doubled my business. But now today, again, we're talking about, okay, now we doubled the business. How do we handle the busyness of that? Okay. So I do have an exercise for you in this first part of the segment. And I call this the freedom audit. Okay. So I would encourage you to grab a notebook and you're going to list every task that you do throughout the day. Okay. So just write down every task you do. Now, if you're not sure, and you're like, you know what? Allie's talking about this memory thing. I don't know. My days are pretty chaotic. I don't have a set schedule of how I do anything. It's just whatever happens, happens. Great, fine. What I would encourage you to do is open up a Zoom and share your screen. Talk out loud as you do every single thing that you're doing. When you have a phone call, it's being recorded. When you're, doing an audit of a credit report or you're going through level up score and running an action plan, everything is done and you're talking out loud as you do that. We're going to create a transcript of the different tasks you do. You can use that information to essentially do what I just said about listing every task that you do. Okay. Once you have all those tasks, you're gonna pick three different letters to put beside each task. Okay. Letter A is for automate. Okay. I'm talk to you about that here in a second. D for delegate and E for eliminate. Now, if you've heard me talk before, I talk a lot about look for automations and eliminations before you delegate. Those should always be your first things. How do I automate systems, things like that? How do I automate or can I eliminate something before I ever look to see about delegating? Okay. So A is automate. So the question you're going to ask when you're looking at that task is, can tech or AI handle this for me? Can tech, like software, so level up score, analyzes credit reports, creates plans, has the resources, does the updates, all blah, 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 right? If I can automate it, then I should put an A beside it. If tech can handle it or AI can handle it, A goes beside it. Even if I don't have that process built out all the way. This is available to me, I can do this, A goes beside it. D, delegate. You're going to ask the question, can a team member do this 80% as good as I can? Okay. The more systems you put in place for different things, and you know this is how we do it, and it's repeatable, the more you can delegate as well. Okay, so again, automation always being the top one. And E, eliminate. So look at it. Simple systems do not scale. I'm sorry, complex systems do not scale. Simple systems do. So are you making it so complex? And there's things in there it doesn't even need to be there. If that's the case, can you remove that? Are they not needle movers? Are they not things that are truly going to get the client to the goal you said they're going to get to? So if a client comes to you and you said, this is the result you're going to get from working with me, if you got crap in that system that's not going to help them get to this, take it out. Take it out. That's actually what they're paying you for. They're paying you for a simple process to get them to their goal. Think about that for a second. They are paying you for a simple process to take them to their goal, right? Because quite frankly, if I wanted to buy my first house and I didn't have someone that could help me make that simpler and I just trying to haphazardly go figure it out myself, I'm going to have a lot of bumps and I'm going to do things I didn't need to do and I'm going to not understand something and all this stuff, this craziness. But if you tell me, hey, you don't have to worry about all that craziness, you don't have to have the bump in the road, the obstacle that you have to climb over, the confusion that you're doing things that you didn't need to do. I have a simple system on how you can get to that. That's what they're paying you for. So think about that. Eliminate stuff that doesn't need to be there, right? They don't need the bump. They don't need the obstacle. How can you pull that out of that system? Okay. So I recommend that you do that. So automate and eliminate should be the thing you should be focusing on most. And then the last part would be to delegate. Okay. And this is really how you start to buy your time back. Um, Not with money, but with clarity, right? You start to buy your time back. So freedom without systems is just burnout in disguise. If your business depends on you, it owns you. You can't scale chaos. You can only systemize it. All right. So segment two, I promised you 3 segments today. Segment 2 is the framework fix, how to simplify and systemize everything. How to simplify and systemize everything. That's what I want you to be able to do. So core message here is framework creates confidence, consistency, and clarity. Okay. So I'm going to do a couple things here. I want to talk to you about what is a framework really, because I talk about frameworks all the time. I talk about systems, but actually what is a framework? because you might be thinking like, she just says these words all the time, but what does that really mean? So I'm actually going to give you the information so you can go off this call and you're going to sit down and do this, okay? And I encourage you to do that. So let me go back to the last actions that I asked you to do. You're going to do that audit, right? So the freedom audit, you're going to look, freedom audit, isn't that a beautiful word? Freedom audit, writing down each task. Can I delegate it? Can I automate it? Can I eliminate it? Now, after we've done that, we need to know about putting systems and frameworks together. So what is a framework? A framework is a simplified, repeatable structure for how you deliver your results. So if I say my GAIN framework is how I take a lead and convert them into a client. It's how I deliver the results for a lead to a client, right? That's my GAIN framework, right? You're going to be looking at how can you create different frameworks. It's not software. Framework is not software. It's not automation. It is your step-by-step path that anyone, yourself, a VA, a new hire, can follow and get the exact same results. Okay? Think about that. A framework is a repeatable step-by-step path that anyone, a VA, a new hire, if they follow it, will get the same results. AKA the GAIN method, right? If they follow my GAIN method, when the lead comes in and they follow this conversation strategy of the GAIN method, they convert a customer, right? So it's a repeatable system that we all follow in my organization. Okay. So why frameworks matter? If your business feels heavy, it's because you're managing through memory and not systems. Okay. So that matters. So just in your own well-being, that matters. Frameworks take what's in your head and make it teachable. Okay. Because a lot of times we put all this information in our head, and that's why we tell people, oh, no one can do it as good as we can do it. Well, probably also we haven't even really put what's in our brain into any kind of intelligible system for someone to even mirror to be able to do 80% as good as we do, right? And so that's one of the big steps is creating these frameworks takes that out of your head and puts it in a teachable system. When you document your steps, you create clarity. And when you name your steps, you create value. Okay, so let me say that again. When you can document your steps, so all the actions that you need to take, you will create clarity for yourself. Okay, what can I automate? What can I delegate? What can I eliminate? And when you can name those steps, you're going to create some value. Okay. So we're going to talk now on how can you build your first framework. I have a 3-step formula on how you can build a framework. It's actually very easy and very fun. It's something that I encourage you to do over the weekend so you have some clear time to just sit and focus and not have to worry about that the phone's going to ring or you got something popping up on your calendar. So the first thing you want to do, step 1, is define it. So what problem does it solve? So example, your client onboarding feels chaotic and it's inconsistent. You don't really have a good client onboarding, right? So that's the problem. So step 1 is we're defining what we need to solve for, right? And then step 2 is we're going to design it. So this is where you can take that problem and take 3 to 5 steps of what happens every time for that client. So example that I might have for this client onboarding. Number 1, I'm going to collect. So I want to collect maybe I'm collecting their credit reports or other reports, their intake forms, their documents, right? So collect is 1. Number 2 in my 3-step process maybe is create. So I'm going to build the action plans using level of score. So I'm creating what I need to do. And maybe on top of that, I'm doing disputes or whatever that may be. Number 3 is communicate. Sending the welcome email, sending recorded a walkthrough video, whatever that might look like. So that would be my 3-step process for onboarding. So my onboarding is I want to collect, I want to create, and I want to communicate. Okay. So simple 3-step process. Does that make sense? So now I've created a 3-step process. I've also named it collect. What does that mean? Create. What does that mean? Communicate. What does that mean? And then you want to document. So you make it visual. You can create it like a checklist. Create or collect, create, right? Communicate. It could be a checklist. It could be a workflow. You can make it as a Loom video because if it's seen, it can be repeated. So it's really cool to make it a visualization. So if you saw my GAIN framework, right, there's a visualization of what that GAIN framework looks like. It really helps to have that documented process that people can see. Okay. So pro tip, if you do something more than once, if you do something twice, I said this the last time, probably needs a framework for it. Okay. If you're doing something more than once, or you're doing it twice, there probably needs to be a framework for it. So here's some examples of some frameworks that you might be wanting to consider doing yourself. A sales framework. Like for me, when a lead comes in, how do we convert that? That's my gain framework. It's for every single consultation, we do the gain framework, right? So that's my sales framework. You might have a client journey framework. So lead comes in, onboard, deliver, update, review, repeat, or renew, right? A marketing framework, weekly posts, like how are you going to do your weekly posts, your story structure, maybe your testimonial flow. How does all that work? Team training framework. How are you going to onboard your VAs? How does your dispute team do their job? Your assistants do their job? Each framework can become a module in your business machine. Okay. And you can build these out so that they're repeatable and you don't have to teach them more than once because you can, do them as videos and modules and things like that. So here's my action exercise for segment 2 today that we were talking about. And that is what I call the framework builder. So I would recommend that you pick one thing, one area in your business that you feel is really messy. And a lot of people come to me and it's their onboarding. Okay, it's their onboarding or it is their consultation. They feel messy. They're not consistently closing deals. They don't know how to, or they don't even know how to bring the lead in, right? So if you know that there's something messy in your process or there's a gap in that process, that might be the one that you focus on first. So pick one. Don't try to overhaul everything at one time. I do recommend that you pick one. And you want to ask yourself, what's the outcome I want? What's the minimum number of steps to get there? Keyword minimum number of steps to get there, right? So when I did my onboarding example that I just told you, I have collect, create, communicate, 3 simple steps. What does each of those mean, right? So I can easily check them off. And what can I automate or assign inside of those steps? That's the other part, very, very important. Okay, so like for me, if I collect the data, I have a online consultation form that they complete. The consumer completes it. It goes into my CRM system, so I don't have to worry about myself having to copy and paste or mistyping anything. They type it, it goes in there. It starts the process flow of what's next, right? It starts the lead gen emails that I might be sending out. And then the create for me is where I put everything's in level up score and it's getting automated and sent out, right? And then the communicate what happens next, right? So just kind of consider that you have this simple 3-step process and what does that mean? And is there anything that I can assign or automate? So for me in my create process, I've automated the create process with level up score, right? So think about that. How can you automate it or assign it to someone? Once you've written it down, name it. Okay. Names make frameworks memorable and marketable. For my example, the name of it, and feel free to take it, is the 3C onboarding framework. Collect, create, communicate. Collect, create, communicate. The 3C onboarding framework, right? Memorable. You remember it. It's like a checklist. Okay, I know what I need to do. It's a great way of how you build out the next pieces. Like, okay, what's collect mean? What are the things I need to collect? What does create mean? Can I automate that? What does that look like? Communicate. What do I need to do to communicate? Right? So those are really important. If you can name it, you can teach it. If you can teach it, you can scale it. Okay. Systems don't make you robotic, they make you reliable. And frameworks turn chaos into confidence. All right, so this is segment 3, and this is what I call the system shift, building a business that runs without you. Okay. Core message for this section is systems protect time, energy, and peace. So there are 3 core systems that every CRO needs, really every business needs, every credit coach, financial coach needs. And those systems, number 1 would be a client delivery system. So once you consider that, most burnouts happen because you're doing what software should do. So client delivery system, how do you automate that part of the process? What software can you use for your client delivery system? Automate your monthly updates, client progress, change reports. You can do that all with Level Up Score. So Level Up Score is a client delivery system that's automated. Okay, so looking at things that you can do like that. Create reoccurring check-ins. Here's what's changed. Here's what's next. Of course, Level Up Score does that for the consumer. And document each client's journey so your team can pick up where it left off. So this would be your client delivery system. So that's one core system that you should have set up in your business. And remember to always look at it of a system in, can I automate anything in it? Can I assign anything, right? This is the freedom part of systems, okay? Marketing and lead nurture system. So you want to plan your weekly content. You know what I do, and you're seeing it in live action right now. I do a live once a week, and then we break up that content to use throughout the entire week. So I'm not having to do content constantly all day long every day because I can take a live that's 45 minutes, break it up into 3 long forms, and then break that into a bunch of shorts. Does that make sense? So consider looking at something like that. So your marketing and lead nurture system. Figure out how you can automate follow-ups in that, sending replay links, right? You always will see replay links of my stuff, right? DM prompts like I asked you guys last week, type in the comments or DM me the word gain and you'll get my workbook, right? Build email automations that educate and lead back to your offer. So it's really important to have that marketing lead nurture. So if a lead comes in and you don't convert them, should that be the end of it? Or should you have different ways that you can continue to communicate with them, providing them real value that also leads back to your original offer, right? I tell people all the time, especially I work with loan officers, and loan officers will refer business to me. And when a client doesn't sign up, I always say, hey, wait, don't worry about it. They're on my lead nurture, and I can probably promise you a year to the date, they'll be back in their regular offer. And it is almost always true. I mean, like a year to the date, right? So consider that you need those lead nurture systems. And then the next one would be the growth and accountability system. So you need to be reviewing your weekly. You need to be reviewing your leads, your conversions, your renewals. Like what is your business actually doing? And I would encourage you in that part of the process when we're talking about growth and accountability systems is even having like maybe a 15-minute Friday review where you look at together as a team what or yourself, what worked, what broke, what's next. All right. And then every quarter, I like to do what I call system day. So I take a day off of work and I usually do it on the weekend. You can do it anytime just because I don't like any interference. But a system day would be looking at what you have in your business and saying, okay, how can I improve on maybe a system I already created, or where am I needing a system? Where is there something we're just repeatedly doing this thing and we haven't automated, we haven't looked if we needed to eliminate something. How can we now make a system out of that, right? And so I'm constantly looking at that. I interview people a lot. So I interview my clients, I interview my referral sources. And through that, sometimes I'll find that a system needs to be made. So maybe there's a question that a consumer's always asking, and I need a system for that, or I need to put that inside of a system that's already in place because there's a gap in that system. There's a question that's not being answered. And I love to make sure that I'm answering everyone's questions so they don't have to ask me, right? I want the system to answer their questions. I want to alleviate confusion because then when I do that, then I have less work to do. So creating the systems may seem like more work in the beginning, but I promise you, it will be the thing that gives you your life back, but allows you to grow your business fast, allows you to scale without chaos. I think you'll really see that it's very beneficial. Take the time to do it. It is worth the time to do it. Okay. Another thing I want to remind you about is that freedom formula. Okay. So we talk about automate, delegate, and eliminate. And again, I'm going to say this one more time. If you can't, if we're going to look at systems here, automate. How much can we automate within that system? How much can we eliminate? What doesn't need to be there? Remember, people are paying you for the simple system, not the complex one. What can we eliminate? And then after we do the automation, the system, the automation, the elimination, now we can look at what can we delegate. Okay. Too often I'll have people call me and they're like, oh, I outsourced this and I outsourced that because they're delegating all these things. When in fact, when we would do a strategy call, which you guys are welcome to do, you can get on my 15-minute strategy call. We do a strategy call and we're like, you didn't need that VA. For instance, for people who are hiring VAs to do the action plans and send out here's what changed this month, here's what we accomplished this month. Like, you could have Level Up Score do that. You're going to save money. You don't have to hire someone. You don't have to train anybody. You have the system already there and automate that. So again, really looking at everything you're doing and are you doing it at the best of your ability? And can it actually be better by automating it? So, we think about like a VA handling action plans and change reports and things like that. And there's human error in that. They also take more time to do it. They might not do it on the day that it needs to be done because maybe they get sick or maybe they have a bunch to do. And so they're trying to figure out how fast they can get stuff done. Where Level Up Score is going to automate that, deliver that, no human error. It's going to be on time every time, right? And so consider that when you're looking at this, you're looking at what can be automated, what can be eliminated, and then what can be delegated. So some questions you can ask yourself as you're looking at how you're doing business is, can tech do it for me? Right? Can AI do it for me? Who can take this over for me? Is there a person that needs to take this over? And what no longer deserves your attention? What no longer do your clients need? Again, that elimination part. But also what no longer deserves your time. And maybe that's something that needs to be automated or delegated, right? So an exercise I'd like you to do in this segment is system snapshot audit. So here's how I envision you do it. You have three columns. Column number one would be daily task I do myself. Column number three, or excuse me, number two would be tasks I can delegate or automate. And then column number three, systems I need to create or improve. And then, like I said, just pick one system at a time to start working on throughout this first week or so that you're working on this. Get that one done first. Okay. So if you try to do too much at one time, it gets pretty overwhelming. But I promise you this is well worth your time. But if like what I like to do is the things that I do myself are the things that I feel like I'm the best for that. Now, and I don't want you to get that wrong, like because we can fall into the trap of like, oh, well, no one can do it as good as me. I don't mean that. I mean that for me, for my business, for instance, I am the creative. I'm the one that says, hey, this is how we need to do this. And I'm maybe, in other words, the work on the business person. I'm going to work on the business, not in the business. Right. So anything in the business will be stuff that either needs to be automated, delegated, or essentially eliminated. Right. And so I don't work in the business. I work on the business because that's where my strong suit is. Yes, I'm really good at working in the business. That's how I built my business, but I'm also really good at creating systems and training and processes and automations so that I don't have to do the thing and actually get done better because I'm not doing it, right? I'm only one person. You're only one person. So think about that too. If you're trying to do all the things, number one, you can't be good at everything you do, right? Somebody's going to be better than you. So when we have this misconception that no one can do it as good as us, that's not necessarily true. If we're doing all things, we're not doing any of them really good. Think about that too. Okay. Um, but then like once you do that, start looking at it and seeing how can you clean this up, right? How can you automate? How can you eliminate? How can you delegate? What systems can you start to put in place? What's the one system that if you solve for that, it's going to help you the most today? Pick that and start working on that. But the ultimate system is you. Okay. When your systems are right, your life changes. You stop reacting, you start leading, and you finally have time to think. I cannot tell you how important that is as a business owner to grow my business that I have time to think. So every morning I do the Millionaire's Morning routine that I talk about in A Millionaire's Journey. But I do that every morning and I really do sit and think. And I'm reading a book now, with Alex Hormozy. I'm reading a couple books at the same time, but I literally sit and think about, and how do I apply that in my business? How can I help to grow my business? But if I'm working in my business and before out, like I told you before, how to work so many hours, like so many hours, just working in the business, doing the things, I never had time to sit back and think and how to make it better, how to make it easier. How do I give more value to my clients, but also minimize my efforts? Like you don't have time to think about those things if you're just. So look first, make those three columns, see what you can eliminate and automate first so that you have some breathing room to actually think. and help to figure out ways to grow your business, how to make systems, how to get things to work better for you, all those things that you really need to do as a business owner. Okay. Freedom isn't found in time off, it's found in control over your time on. So, freedom isn't found in your time off, it's actually found in control of your time on. Okay. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. Every broken system costs you time, money, or peace, or all. You don't build freedom by working alone, you build it by working smarter. Okay. You don't build freedom by working more. You build freedom by working smarter. So that's your systems, that's your delegation, your automation, your elimination, right? Freedom is the result of structure, not escape from it. Freedom is the result of structure, not escape from it. If you want your business to run on autopilot while still delivering impact, still delivering high value to your clients, it starts with one framework at a time. So your next step, audit your freedom fallacy, automate, delegate, eliminate. Build one new framework this week and create one system day per month to review what you got going on, make sure it's still working for you, refine. I always say feedback and refine, feedback and refine. So if you do want help building your frameworks and systems, if you want that strategy call and you're like, what is the thing I need to do first? I do welcome you to jump on my 15-minute strategy call. So in the replay, we'll put a link up so you can schedule a 15-minute call. Be clear about what you want in that 15-minute call. Do your homework because it is truly 15 minutes, but I will give you 15 minutes of my time to help you figure out a way, what strategies you need to put in place, what systems you need to put in place, whatever that might be, a strategy call, and we will do together. But please know exactly what you need from me or exactly what questions you have so that we can be very powerful in that 15 minutes. Okay. So I give that to you. The other thing you can do is you can upgrade to a one-on-one call with me where we can spend a little bit more time together. There is a cost to that, or you can jump into the Millionaire's Journey group coaching call where you'll get my journey map that tells you how to get from an idea to $1 million business. All the steps, all the levels, everything's laid out for you. Workbooks are given to you, and you'll be in a private community. And that is $297 to get access to that. And that is until December 31st, because January 1, a whole new price. And I'll be releasing that information here soon. So if you want to be in that beta group, it's $297. You can get started right away. I appreciate you all. I hope this Tuesday top tip has really given you a lot of powerful things to consider. Take the time this weekend and sit down and really look at all these things. Record yourself on Zoom, record your screen, talk out loud what you're doing, and see if you can discover those things that you should be automating, eliminating, or delegating. Your job as a CEO is to work on your business, not in your business. If you can't automate and eliminate, delegate to the person who can do it at least 80% as good as you. I appreciate you all. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to next week's top tip, which, just so you know, give you a little tip, next Tuesday, we're going to dive into how to build freedom funnels, automated processes that attract, nurture, and convert without constant effort.